Today I'm gonna show you how to create a path in an image and color grade your photos. Hey there, my name is Ali. Today's edit photos are gonna be available in the description below if you want to download them and follow along with us. We'll start off by creating a new document. We're gonna go portrait style for Instagram. The width is 3000 by 3500. Make sure you don't have a very high resolution so your file goes fast. Okay, so now we have our canvas. Let's start dragging our photos. I'm gonna drag the first photo. Okay, and then I'm just gonna stretch it a little bit so it fits the frame. Okay, something like that. Maybe I'm gonna pull it up here a little bit. Okay, good. I just don't want this, so I'm just gonna pull it a little bit to the right, making sure I don't have this white area. You can like zoom in a lot and just make sure you're only 1 pixel to the right, but it's not necessary. I'll start by catching the quick selection tool. I want to separate the foreground from the sky. So I'm just gonna very easily, like with the quick selection, I'm gonna make the selection of this one. Now I have a selection of the sky. I want to select the opposite. So I'm gonna hold Control and Shift and then press I. It will invert my selection. Now I'm gonna press Control J. So now I have a layer of only the lower part on top of that layer. I'm gonna rasterize this one so it goes faster. So I have this one and that one. Now if I create a layer in between these two and take my brush and let's say I paint anything, now I can like do something only on the sky. That's the whole point. Now we're gonna add this sky on top of it in the middle of the two. So this was the whole idea of the separation. I want it to be a little bit bigger, something like that. Having a new sky is what I wanted, but now I'm gonna change it to overlay. So now we have both of them merged together. Then I'm gonna first rasterize it, add a layer mask. Using my brush, I'm gonna erase the top area. I like this area, which is having all the orange color and the sunset. So using the black brush, making sure it's soft, I'm just gonna slowly erase some parts from the top. So now what this layer did is adding only this part in the middle. I'm gonna press Ctrl J. This will duplicate my layer, but now I'm gonna change the blending mode to screen. Screen will make it like very bright, but I'm gonna use a very low opacity. So this is what the screen did, just brightening up a little bit. Okay, now we're good with the sky and the background. Let's create a new layer on top of both of them. Let's go to the brush. Now I'm gonna just start to highlight stuff. I'm gonna take a very light reddish orange, some color like that. Maybe let's move it a little bit towards the red. And I'm gonna choose a low opacity. Make sure your layer is on overlay before painting so you can see what you are doing. Okay, and then I'm gonna start to paint over the highlights. I'm looking at highlights like that and painting over them. If it's too strong, I'm just gonna lower the opacity. Also, I'm gonna paint over the mountains because the mountains should have the color of the new sky. Also the house, some parts of the house should have the same color. These trees back there. Anywhere where you find highlights, I'm just gonna paint that color. It adds a lot of interest to the photo. So this is the before, this is the after. You see it added a lot of interest already. Let's create a new layer, but now let's choose a dark blue color, something like that. Let's change it to overlay. And sorry, I forgot to swap the color. That's too strong, of course. So I'm gonna use a very like subtle one, something like that with low opacity. And just on the shadows, I'm gonna add some blue. This also adds interest. So these two, let's group them together. Let's say highlight shadow. So this is what it did. It adds a lot of interest to the photo. Really important. Okay, like the most important thing I wanted to explain in this tutorial was this part. Stay focused. So now I want to create some sort of a path in front of this house. This could be a little bit hard if I want to create it by finding or using stock photos. So I'm gonna do it in a creative way. I'm just gonna using the lasso tool, make sure you're on zero feather. I'm just gonna draw my path, let's say something like that. And something like that. Okay, so now we created our path. I'm just gonna create a new layer and just add any color. It doesn't matter which color. This one is just to make sure it looks nice. I'm just gonna fix it now so it looks nice. I don't like this area actually. I'm gonna make it like that. It's too fat, then it's going too skinny, so I'm just gonna erase some parts from here. Add a little bit here. Sorry, the other color. I add color by pressing Alt backspace actually, if you're wondering. Okay, so now I only have this, so I can press Control click to get the selection of it. I just want to make sure it's all the way to the end. Okay, so now I can get this selection using this one. I don't need this layer now. I'm just gonna close it. And let's stand on the layer of the ground. Now what I'm gonna do is go to Image Adjustments, Brightness Contrast. Now I'm gonna pump the brightness completely up. So now you see what do we have? We have some sort of a path. We're still gonna fix it even more. We have the selection. Control click to get the selection. Now I'm gonna add a new layer. And then I'm gonna switch to black color. And using my brush, I'm gonna use 100% black color and soft brush. Not very soft actually. I'm gonna go with like maybe 70% hardness. And I'm just gonna over the edges, I'm gonna paint some black. Something like that. It went too bad actually. I'm just gonna make sure you leave your click so when you press undo, it doesn't like you don't face the same problem I had now, which was going back to the first step. Okay, so now we're done with the left part. Let's go to the right part. This one actually I'm not gonna paint all of it because this is like creating some depth to the graph. I'm just gonna paint here and here. You can understand this one by practice. It's very hard to explain actually. But if you look, these are the areas where you're gonna see the depth of the grass. Here, we're not gonna see the depth of the graph behind this line. Now I'm gonna change this one to overlay and just lower the opacity a little bit. So now we created some sort of depth. Let me show you the before, it was too flat, and the after. Okay, so now we created some sort of a path. We can also take the layer of the house itself, go to the polygonal lasso tool, and just create some sort of a door, something like that. And again, image adjustments, brightness contrast, make sure it's completely dark. Okay, so now we have some sort of a door. Okay, I guess we're done with the blending. Let me add the model. I have this photo I cut before of a boy. I'm just gonna add it. I'm not gonna go through the whole process of how I cut him on everything. I'm just gonna, let's say here is okay, it's fine here. Okay, let me show you now how I'm gonna color grade the whole thing. I'll start by creating a color balance layer. I'll go to the highlights. I'm gonna add some red to the highlights, some magenta, some yellow. Now I want this one to only be affecting the sky, so I'm just gonna take my gradient, make sure it's on the first one and on black, and I'm just gonna pull up, making sure it's only on the top part, it's only affecting the top part. Then I'm gonna do another curves adjustment layer. I'm gonna go to the red, add red in the highlights, cyan in the shadows, then in the blue add some yellow, and in the greens add some magenta, which is opposite of green, to the highlights. Okay, good. Now let me play with the values a little bit. I'm gonna pull up the blacks, pull down the shadows, and take my highlights, make them a little bit brighter. So let's see these three, what they did, the before and the after, looking good already. Let's jump to the gradient map. I always start with this one and I start playing around. I'm gonna change the blue to cyan, make it a little bit darker. I'm gonna move this red to here actually, change it to orange. Then I'm gonna hold Alt and create another one. And this one I'm gonna make it like some sort of a pinkish color, something like that. And this yellow, I'm gonna make it a little bit more orange and brighter. So now this is the map of how it's gonna look like. We can lower the opacity. This is what it did, and change it to soft light or overlay. Let's try both. This is the soft light and this is the overlay. The overlay is a little bit stronger, but it looks nice. Okay, good. Now one more thing I want to do is I'm gonna go to brightness contrast. I'm just gonna add some brightness to the whole image. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl I. Now it's completely invisible. Then I'm gonna take my brush, using like some soft brush with low opacity. I'm just gonna paint with the white to the places where I want them to be bright. So the middle parts are important just to make them bright, so the eyes like get to the middle more. Okay, once I'm done and I like it, I'm gonna press Ctrl Alt Shift, then press E. This will merge everything into a new layer, so we can go to filter, camera raw filter, and we're gonna edit the whole thing in one go. I'm gonna reduce the clarity. I always start by doing that. I don't want very sharp details. And I'm gonna increase the whites, reduce the highlights, decrease the blacks, increase the shadows. I always like to do that. A little bit of contrast. Then I'll jump to the FX module. I'm gonna add a little bit of vignette. Vignette is like a black circle around the photo. A little bit of it is very important because it makes the eye like concentrate on the middle. And then in the dehaze, I'm gonna haze it a little bit. No, that's too much. Maybe -4 or -5 is good. And I'm gonna press OK. So now we have the final product. And that's it for today's tutorial. If you have any questions or suggestions, make sure you put them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.